All right, so good morning and good afternoon. This is Mr. Collazo again, and today we are talking about a new kind of rule, okay? We are talking about negative exponents, okay? So what we've been talking about, right? We just had a mixed review the last day we were in class, but what we're talking about now are the exponents that we've been used to and using. They're now going to be negative numbers, okay? So it's not super hard. You don't need to freak out. There's just a few basic rules that you kind of have to just remember. And they kind of make sense once you get the hang of it, okay? So again, there is a lot of examples. I'm going to do 12 examples. Feel free to skip ahead if you want to, like if you want to get ahead, if you need to rewind, go ahead. These are your notes. They are going to get a little more difficult as we go on, though, so just keep that in mind. So let's get started. Number one, I have 2 to the 5th power. Right? So this is just very basic, right? 2 to the 5th power, it's a normal number. You could put this in your calculator. 2 to the 5th gives me 32, okay? Now you're gonna see why I said this, because in number 2, I have 2 to the negative 5th power, okay? So remember, every time we write these, it's basically like, or when I have any problem, it's basically like it's over 1, right? Now, when we have number 2 is I have over 1. Okay, so when you have a negative exponent, what you have to do is flip the numerator and flip like the term that's being raised to the negative exponent. You're gonna flip it to the opposite side of the fraction bar and change the sign of the exponent. That was very confusing. Okay, let me show you. So what I mean is we have a fraction bar, right? I have 2 to the negative 5th on top of the fraction here. Okay, so to get this to be positive, because that's what we want positive exponents. I'm gonna take it, put it at the bottom of the fraction bar, and make it positive, okay? Now you might be thinking, what's gonna be on the top? Well, if I had 1 on the bottom, now I put the 1 on the top, okay? So I have 1 over 2 to the 5th power, okay? But now we know 2 to the 5th power is 32. So 1 over 2 to the 5th is 1 over 32. Okay, y'all see that? So 2 to the 5th is 32. 2 to the negative 5th is 1 over 32. Okay, so see how we did that? We flipped it and changed the sign of the exponent. Okay, so we'll look at a bunch more. Okay, so number 3. Now I have variables, right? I have t to the negative 4th. Okay, so remember, this is like over 1, t to the negative 4th over 1, okay? So we're gonna flip it and change the sign of the exponent. So I'm gonna write my fraction bar. So I'm gonna have t to the 4th power and then 1 on top. And that's my final answer. That's as simple as I can get it. 1 over t to the 4th power. That's it. Okay, you got it. Now number 4, let's do the same thing. So number 4, I have c to the 2nd and d to the negative 3rd, okay? So I'm gonna write my fraction bar, okay? And now, on the numerator, right on the top, because right on this one right now, originally, I have c to the 2nd power, d to the negative 3rd on the numerator, on top of the fraction bar, okay? So when I'm simplifying it, c to the 2nd power, well, that's a positive. That's what we want. So I'm gonna leave that on the numerator. Okay? The only thing I'm gonna move is d to the negative 3rd power, okay? So since it's a negative, I'm gonna move it to the denominator, I'm gonna move it down and change the sign, okay? That is my answer, right? Everything is positive exponents, we're done, okay? That's what we want, okay? Hopefully you're okay so far. Number 5, okay? I have 8x to the negative 5th. So again, put over 1, okay? So now looking at this, right, I need to change this x to the negative 5th to positive, okay? So I'm gonna have to move that to the denominator. But then you might be thinking, well, what do I do with this 8, okay? Well, 8 doesn't have a negative exponent attached to it. So 8 can actually stay in the numerator because the only thing I have to move is this x to the negative 5th. So it's gonna turn into x to the positive 5th. Okay, and that's it. Now we have a positive exponent. So the only thing I moved was that negative exponent. Okay, number 6, negative 5 times x to the negative raised to the negative fourth, y to the third power. Okay, so again, all of this is over 1. I write my fraction bar. So negative 5, that can stay on top of the fraction bar. That's good. It doesn't have a negative exponent. X to the negative fourth does, so I need to move this. So x to the negative fourth is going to go to the denominator. It's going to change to positive. Y to the third power, that's a positive, so that can stay right where it is. So I get negative 5 y to the third over x to the fourth. Okay? So hopefully y'all are starting to see the pattern, right? If I have a negative exponent, it has to move. Everything else stays the same. Okay? So if I go to 7, right, I have x to the third over y to the negative first z. So here, they already have a fraction bar for me. So let me make another one. Oh, let me go here. Okay, so I have x to the third on the numerator. That can stay there, right, because it's positive. That's what we want, okay? Now, in the denominator, I have y to the negative first, okay? We can't have negative exponents, okay? So now, since it started in the denominator, it's going to go to the numerator where it's going to have a positive exponent, okay? So it's going to have a positive 1, just like that, okay? And then z, right? Z has a positive exponent of 1, right? It's a z by itself, so we can write z 1, okay? So now everything's positive. But that's not really proper. We don't really want to put those 1s, so we would want x to the third y over z, right? That's what we want. That's kind of the proper answer, okay? But again, the only thing we moved was this negative exponent. Everything else, the x to the third and the z, stayed the same, okay? Number 8, so I have a to the negative fourth, b to the third, over c squared, d to the fourth power, okay? So let's go letter by letter. So a to the negative fourth, right? Negative exponent, it has to move. So this goes from the numerator to the denominator, okay? B to the third power, it's positive, so that can stay right where it is, okay? C to the second power, that's positive, that can stay where it is. D to the fourth, that's positive, that can stay where it is, okay? So the only thing we had to move was that a to the negative fourth. Everything else stayed the same, okay? Even though there's a lot more on the denominator, that's fine. It's still good, okay? So there's my answer. Moving on up. Number 9, okay, so number 9, I have 5x to the negative second, y to the negative third, over z to the 0, okay? So it's a little weird. So let's do our fraction bar, and let's go term by term. So I have 5, right? It's positive 5. It's a regular old 5. I'm going to keep that there, okay? X to the negative second power, it's a negative exponent. It's got to move. So x to the negative second goes to the denominator, changes to positive, okay? Y to the negative 3, it's a negative exponent. It's got to move. So we move it to the denominator, make it positive, okay? And z to the 0, right? Remember the rule. Anything to the 0 power is actually 1, okay? And we don't have to write a 1, right? We know that. It's just like these examples up here, right? We didn't write that 1. So my final answer, 5 over x squared y to the third, okay? The only thing that moved was the negative exponents. Number 10, okay? So number 10, we have a to the 0, b to the negative second, c to the negative third, and 1d, okay? Give that d a 1 with the exponent, okay? So a to the 0, right? That's 1, okay? So we can write that up here. B to the negative second, okay? Again, since it's a negative exponent, it's got to move. So it goes from the numerator to the denominator, make it positive, okay? Positive exponent. I have c to the negative third, okay? So c to the negative third, it's got to move. So since it's on the denominator, it's going to the numerator. So I have c to the third power, okay? And I have d to the first, that's just 1d. So that it's positive, so it can stay on the denominator, okay? But this is not proper, right? We don't want to have the ones, we don't have the ones there, okay? So we're going to clean it up a little bit so we don't have to write the top one. So I put c to the third over b squared d. There we go. Oh, my bad. Can y'all see that? There we go. C to the third over b squared d. Okay, easy. Only thing we had to move were the negatives. Number 11. Okay, so number 11, okay, I have a to the 5th, b to the negative 3rd over c squared to the d, all raised to the 0 power. Okay, so remember, this was like what we learned a couple of days ago. Anything to the 0 power, right? If it's all to the 0 power, the answer is just 1. Okay, no tricks, no nothing. If everything is to the 0 power, your answer is 1. Okay, easy. Number 12, last one. So negative 3 times negative 3 x squared y to the negative 3rd over z to the negative 4th. So let's do our fraction bar. So negative 3, no negative exponent, it can stay there. X squared, well, it's positive, so it can stay there. Y to the negative 3, okay, so I have a negative exponent, it's got to move. So since it's on the numerator, like it's got to go down. So I move y to the 3rd power, okay? And then on the denominator, at the bottom of the fraction, I have z to the negative 4th. So since it's negative, it's got to move. So it's going to go from the bottom to the top. So z to the 4th, and it turns into a positive, okay? So that is it. That is all these examples, okay? The key thing is, if you see a negative exponent, we have to change something, okay? Negative exponents, we cannot leave them like that. So if it's in the numerator, it's got to go to the denominator. If you have a negative exponent in the denominator, it's got to go to the numerator, okay? So keep that in mind. Make sure you practice that. Make sure you know numerator is the top of the fraction, denominator is the bottom of the fraction, okay? Because if you don't know that, this video will be kind of confusing, okay? So that's about it. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask your teacher. Again, y'all can always rewind and come back to this video if you need to, okay? Y'all have a great day. I will see y'all in Zoom.